me and Nadja, we had this idea of sharing our private conversations for the internet because we feel through our own inner process, we have been able to uncover some truth or some inner blocks that we have been facing, and we feel that maybe through our conversation we can create a catharsis on other people. And so this is going to be our first season, our first session of the Gyanama project. I would like first to introduce Nadja a little bit. Nadja, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Nadja. I live here in Mandram, Goa, India. I'm originally from Switzerland, and I have my yoga school for women, Gyanama Yoga, here in this place. I live with my cats and my dogs, and yeah, it's very. I prefer actually to introduce myself slowly, bit by bit. I kind of the whole video thing, the whole video recording thing. There's something I feel very conscious about, self-conscious about. I love to talk in front of people, to teach people, to guide them through a journey, to teach online face to face. But as soon as the sign record goes, I'm going into, oh, okay, what am I going to say? So I think it's probably easier just to go, to go with the flow. But basically I'm teaching yoga, and I'm using yoga as a vehicle or as a tool to tap deeper into the psycho-spiritual realms. It is a vehicle to travel. It gives us guidelines that I very much appreciate. It's those guidelines, it's like tools of how to travel the energy fields, the physical, the spiritual, the energetical, the mental realms. It's not about the asanas only. Asanas can help. It's not about the asanas, it's the body postures. It's not about the breath only. It's not about the meditation only. It's about the connection with the divine. It's about the connection with God. It's about connection with ourselves. And it is about tapping into our physical to be able to let go of the physical as well eventually. So it is a very complex scenario. So when I say I'm teaching yoga, I mean by that I take women through a journey into the depths of themselves, helping or guiding to unravel what is hidden, to bring what's from the hidden, what's from the unconscious in the conscious, and be a guide and be holding space, because every journey is different for every person, and there's also different places that need to be explored, different ways to approach it. So it's very different with each and every woman.
Exactly. And I was fortunate enough to cross paths with Nadja last year during my one-way ticket to India. And upon meeting Nadja, I was really pushed to go deeper within. I found out layers of myself. I started to understand who I really was, how I was disconnected from my own inner self and my own essence. And it has been a long process, a long journey, but also a very deep and rewarding one of understanding which parts of myself are not aligned, the conditions that I must let go, the blind spots, the taking accountability for my emotional triggers. And I feel that in our present day and age, this work is really needed for every single human being that walks the earth right now and really wants to take accountability for their own journey and starting to discover their own power and merge with the divine. This was something that I was unaware during the previous times.
And has it always been pleasant, Salome?
No. This is very important. I feel like this is one of those that we really need to touch upon.
Yes,
Because
I really feel the thing is that expectations of people who a lot of people who start off their spiritual journey is actually to bliss out and to improve the quality of their lives without actually changing their lives. That's how I started as well. I felt pain, I felt pressure, I wanted to improve my life, and I also felt this lack. And that's what you felt as well, like you told me. And I encountered that with many of my clients, and it's just so, it's actually kind of endearing that, you know, women who, not just who I work with, but also on the journey with me that I have journeyed with in my, the workshops that I participated in. And we all started off just wanting to take out some, you know, tools to make our lives easier. But we just realized that, yeah, we actually have to change things as well. And you cannot bypass certain processes. So it actually takes quite a bit of dedication and what you call in yoga pratyahara, just the steadiness to go on, you know. And it's very beautiful to witness your journey, because you have been very raw in it from the very beginning with that joy and with wanting to explore the spiritual realms, and then how it actually took you in the descent before you know, and the depths of your inner underworld.
Exactly. I feel like for the outside world, I went a little bit I stepped two steps back instead of going forward. So if we were to analyze like all the metrics for success and achievement for a young lady, and for the metrics of society, most likely people would think that well, it was not really a step forward, but my metrics are really, and this was something that I started to tune into when I started working with Nadja, was that I really realized that the metrics are all about how I feel and the gifts that I am unblocking, the changes of character and how I act and behave, and the quality of my thoughts, the quality of my emotions, the really the inner realm that I'm unveiling and unblocking from within, and how that actually then changing my outer reality. But it's a process that needs to be first, there needs to be some degree of comfort in chaos and darkness, so that then I can really start to align all my outer reality and life from this really inner stillness and place from within. But of course, like it's a process, and it's a step-by-step approach, and not all days are about improvements. It's very important to understand that, and this was one of those misconceptions that I had when I started my spiritual journey, for sure.
It's not linear.
It's not.
It's not linear. It's circular, and it's like you feel that's actually happening to me right now. It's like you feel that certain topics or certain pains, let's call them pains, wounds in our life, certain issues we have. A very classical one is the mother wound that a lot of women have, not just women, but we women, I think we recognize it easier. it is this, you know, that you feel that you have actually journeyed through it. You have done a lot of modalities. Personally, I have done the psychological modalities, family constellations, deep shamanic work, deep inner work, also some shadow work, many modalities. And then it's just like you feel, oh my God, I've really, you know, I've moved beyond that. I'm beyond it. And then circular, you get back to that point, but not on a out. It's like onion rings, you know. You're going deeper to the core. So what has rattled you and ruffled you 2 years ago won't even touch you anymore, won't even bother you anymore. You go like, oh, well, that worried me. Oh, that got to me, that triggered me. No, it's not that. Some deeper stuff that you didn't maybe even notice before, you haven't exposed yourself to. It's just coming on a deeper layer, and more stuff is coming up. And then it can very easily, the feeling of, why am I doing all this? Why am I making my life so difficult? I just could, you know, have a happy life, go out there, party, and forget about all of it instead of going into the depths again and again. It's just happening to me now as well. I'm going through another round of things that I've touched upon partly years ago, partly reoccurring, but it just comes on a deeper level. And there are days where I go myself, it's like, whoa, what am I doing here? You know, I think everybody who is on the journey has days where we question ourselves why we're doing it. And there are days where where I can really only talk about myself and the experience I make with people that I know and that I've journeyed with, that I'm guiding through, is then there is this, there are days where we just feel that certain things, we perceive them differently. We like all things that we never knew why it happens in our life. And suddenly we realize, oh my God, it's so obvious, and we can actually change things. That gives the feeling that we actually are in charge of ourselves. We're not just a victim of the world, you know. And I think that's a very important point, that victim, you know, that, what can you say to the
Very
victim?
deep. I still have. Let's
But we
share it.
all have the victim. It is a collective wound. The victim is a collective wound. It's a collective archetype too. It's a everybody has it, but some have it more pronounced than others.
Yes, and from my journey, I really feel like since childhood, really, I would put myself in the victim position, and also the outer reaction was that I could not trust the world because the world was out to get me. I could not trust people. I could not trust. I could not walk in integrity with my heart open because the world is too dark to carry that. The heart is like a wound, that open wound for the world to shatter. This was like something that I had really struggle with. It is part of also my shadow, I feel, that comes from times to times to remind me that there are still work that I need to do. And of course, my reaction to act in the world with this victim archetype was to build this outer armor that would enable me to be successful, to be also in the defense mode, so that people could not harm me, or that even events that would go out of my control, I would make sure that I would do everything in my power to override outside events. I also understood that played a big role with the complex for perfection that I had. So the victim also ties with the need for outer perfection, and also for the expectation of the world to be perfect. Yeah, this is something that I'm still processing. It's not a change that happens overnight, and now I'm conscious, but there are still a lot of behaviors and conditions and automatic reactions that I get from time to time, especially when we go into the shadow with Nadja, through yoga, and also then the psychic work. It's really something very powerful that from one moment to the other, I'm like acting out the victim.
Yeah, it's very interesting how simultaneous it is with you and how quick. A lot of people have delayed reactions, and you used to be very delayed, actually, but you've become more immediate than you used to be, which is always a sign that it comes more into the awareness. But what is really, I'm sometimes amazed myself. I know that it works for me, and that I have studied the modalities, and when I have done the practices, how it worked on me, but I was never aware that it also works so well on others. Is when I'm taking people through the chakras and taking people through, especially the Swadhisthana, which is the second chakra, the Hara chakra around the navel, where the womb and the ovaries are, a deeply feminine chakra. That's also where we are holding the shadow. That's also where we're holding the deep shame and guilt and all the hidden. It's a very hidden part. So when we physically tap into the asanas, the body postures of yoga, and the movements, I integrate also some tantric movements, and some from the elements from dance, from different modalities that I've been studying. I combine them also with everything basically focused on unraveling this chakra. And it's amazing how when we tap into the psoas, in particular, we can get at a later stage to what the psoas is. It is like immediately in myself also that suddenly these emotions are coming up. I don't even know where they come from. And I'm like, what is happening now? You know, it's anger or rage about something. And these old patterns are coming up where you suddenly blame. I'm a blamer. I blame. So I blame, you know, like, I'm like, whoa, 5 minutes ago, I was okay. So I can feel it in myself too when I do my own practice or when I do other modalities too. It doesn't matter. It's just tapping deeply into the energy field. And then what is super important, I find, is that when you do this kind of work, that you are aware what's happening, because otherwise it can be quite, it can actually re-traumatize you. It can really be very like you don't know what's going on, and then you don't have anybody holding the space for you. But those emotions do come up, and whatever comes up from the unconscious into consciousness, we can actually deal with. We can do something about it. Whatever comes into the light, I mean into the seen, from the unseen, is something we can work with, and that takes us out of the victim mode, because we are in charge. Victim basically is nothing else than feeling powerless. Victim is the most powerless ever, because if you feel the victim, you basically think everybody does something to you. The world is against you, people are against you. You literally feel everybody wants to harm you. And you feel that you have no power over your own destiny. And it's a very painful state of being. So and it's very hidden, right? You don't actually know why you feel that you cannot trust anybody. So by going in, which in itself might not be as pleasant, but going deep and taking it out really gives, you said it the other day, you felt this relief, no?
Yes, I feel for me, the process started with me acknowledging, even before doing the shadow work, trying to disidentify myself from the emotions and the energy that I feel at the moment. So that, because I still am and used to be very intellectual, very in the mind and the brain. It's very important for me to understand that whatever I feel at that moment is not what I am. That gave me a power. So when I go through the shadow and I do this deep process with you, I even if at the moment I realize that I'm feeling really, really bad emotion, I start to associate with the stories, the narratives, but I know these are narratives of the past. This is not the present, or I mean, it's the present, but it does not need to be the future. I'm going through a process for ideally purification, for letting go of that old stories, of that old patterns, of that emotions. And so to me, that first step of understanding that I am not what I'm feeling now, and it's okay to feel, so that then I can alleviate the charge, or I can transmute that, it was very, very important. And then it's true, like as I start to process, and the period, I feel like we cannot really control the period through which we really go deep, and I tend to overdo it a bit, to stay in the shadow for long periods of time. But I also understand that that might be variable from people to from person to person,
And from day to day.
or day to day, exactly. But when I went through that, and you gave me this advice to also journal it and understand the story behind that emotion, and then the next day, usually the sleep really helps me process things, integrate, and the next day, like I focused a little bit more consciously on my action, and then I also let it um, sit with me, kind of like when I had the time to go back to the story, and step by step I could understand that after all that turmoil of emotions, there was this feeling of relief and of understanding myself better, and kind of like it's like I took a stone out of my bag, this kind of lightness after the process. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I feel that the shadows actually that we carry, that's a termination that's been, I think, first probably used by Carl Jung, and it is in his work. But what it basically means is that the things we, and there is an author, I think it's called Stephen Bly, I cannot remember the name now of the author, the way he describes it, that it's like in your childhood, you know, like you want to be loved, you want to be accepted, you also need it for survival because you need your parents to like you, otherwise who's going to feed you and put a roof over your head? So you learn very quickly as a child how to behave in a certain way so you are safe within that surrounding. And maybe it's not even about safety, but want to be loved by your parents and by your surroundings. So you adjust your behavior. Partly it's a cultural shadow. You adjust to the cultural setting you're in. Is it Portugal, Switzerland, India? It's very different cultural conditionings. And then the conditioning of the family and the individual psychology of the parents. And then we start to, as children, to put little parts of our personality into a black bag, like a stone, like into a black bag, and we hide it. But the problem is we don't just hide it from the parents, we actually hide it from ourselves, and we forget we have those parts. So we carry around all our life this big black heavy bag with these stones in it that weigh us down, and that we don't even know why it's weighing us down. We acting out certain things which is not even us, our personality, which is part of our parents' conditioning, society, or whatever. And I think something very crucial when it also comes to individual empowerment is that we don't just hide the good things in us, the bad things in us, so we think it's bad. We also hide the gold. We also hide what is really our most probably our most powerful talents and gifts are hidden under all these heavy stones in that same bag. So that's happening for me personally, and I see it with many people, because this Svadhisthana, now that's where the shadow lies. That's also our subconsciousness. That's also where our creativity and our intuition is. So another thing about empowerment is that if we have an inner compass, which is the intuition, we actually, it's easier for us to trust the setting. It's easier for us to be able to intuit, to feel into if this is our sacral energy, if this is like actually a good situation, a bad situation, if we can trust not how to navigate the world. So if we don't free the center from all the stones or rubbish or whatever, from the hidden heavy stones, we also hide our intuition. So by taking this out, we also, it's not just the victim is also part of hidden intuition, because if you have a fully intact intuition and you're spot on, you just know how to sass out a situation, you're not going to fall into the victim, because you know that if you got yourself into something that you did it yourself, you know, you don't, yeah, because you have your intuition. So it is it's a very powerful process, but it's every time you know, you touch a new you know, this circular thing, when you touch a new stone, we are not the nicest version of ourselves. Sometimes some really ugly sides come out, but only when we start to accept this as about ourselves too, only when we start to be okay with also not just being, you know, I don't know, rose petals. There's also some shit in us, let's call it by its name. Yeah, then if we are honest about that, we can also read other people better, which then again helps our intuition. So it really helps us to navigate the world.
Oh, yes. And actually, touching upon that, I recall that before meeting Nadja, and for a little bit of context, I left my life here in Portugal, where I am from. I was a lawyer here, and I felt completely lost. I had this inner feeling of this life that I was living and leading was not my life. I had this thing that there needs to be more about life, and my circle, I really could not relate, because people kept on telling me like, yes, but that is normal, or why do you feel this way if your life is really put together? But I had this inner feeling that something is really off, something is off track. And in order to tap into that intuition, I really had to start facing my shadow. It was really that point where everything changed, and suddenly I start more and more now in my life understanding, one, like why I felt lost in the past, two, that I created this superficial perfect persona, but then from the subconscious I was acting out another scripts and plays, and those would animate my emotional triggers and my lack of boundary setting. So a lot of toxic behaviors, but that I really did not understand where they came from. So yes, I really feel that that sense of being lost and out of alignment or off track is one of those first feelings that and first like the precursor to going to dive right deep within, to understand that something is not okay, something needs to change.
It's an emptiness, no separation.
Yes, I also felt that emptiness, like just to give a little bit of symptoms, but to me it was like this feeling of like really voidness within, like nothing would bring me joy and happiness, like all I had no life force, no energy for anything. Everything felt like a burden to me.
A
Everything,
chore.
Yes, sure. Everything took so much.
Too much, everything too much.
Yes, everything. And I felt like this overwhelmness from the most simple of things. Yes, I really felt it was such a heavy workload. I would wake up, and this was another sign that I've seen shifting within me. I would wake up every day without energy, like almost dreading the day that I had ahead of me. And then, um, yes, like this sense that there was really something off track. I always knew, but it's of course it's easier to continue leading your life from that comfortable zone, and also society reinforces that staying in the comfort zone.
Well, it's basically, and I don't even say I feel or whatever. I just, I know. It's we're not born to, that this life is not made for pleasure, or it's not made for. It's basically we have a mission. We all have a sole purpose in this life, and we have been separated at birth from our sole purpose. So to me, life is Earth University. We basically, on this university, we've been reincarnated into this life, learning what we need to learn. So the parents we are born, the setting we are born into, the country, the culture, the social standards, the circumstances we are born into, the family setting, it is and the stars under which we are born into, but that's where the astrology comes in. But that's a different chapter altogether. It's not by coincidence. We've actually chosen that as a soul because we have things that we need to accomplish to rise. There are things that as souls, we are not perfect. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to have the human experience. All of us who are on this planet at this moment in time, we've still got things to learn. None of us is perfect. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had to reincarnate as human beings. We would be, beyond. And everybody who is coming to this world still has a task to fulfill. And that is another thing which takes me out of the victim, because if something really bad happens in my life, or that I conceive as bad, I remind myself that, yeah, maybe, I had to learn this lesson to grow. It's sometimes not easy in a moment, but with a bit of distance to it, it becomes easier. So we are all, it depends how you look at it. What is important? What your family thinks, what your village thinks, what your society thinks, how you behave, what is really important. In the end of the day, we want to connect with God. You call it God, you call it Allah, you call it the divine, you call it the universe, but we are basically connected with something bigger, within or without. That's also part of the ideology you come from. Doesn't matter either. What matters is that we are meant to connect with something bigger than what is made as being important by society. And the problem is about or the problem for society about people who actually discover that other things are more important than fitting into the society, or some call it matrix, the grid that keeps it all together, is we cannot be manipulated, because we do not react to the impulses that are given so much. So we're actually dangerous species because we cannot be controlled. And that is it's a very fundamental way to look at the world. It is also a very fundamental way when you go on a spiritual journey. I'm not a teacher for somebody who just wants to bliss out. I'm not. Oh yeah, I can give you a yoga class, you're gonna feel good, maybe. That's not who I am. I don't think, or I know actually that's not what's my purpose in this lifetime. That's not what I was born to. That's not what my mission, my gift in this life is. We all have a gift that we are meant to live, you know. I'm still not fully sure what it is myself, but I'm getting closer to it. And I know it has something to do with assisting, helping, guiding people, women. I feel the call for women on their journey to actually unravel their own mission and their own purpose in life. And that really takes you also into the down before you can go up.
Exactly. And yes, when you actually refer to working directly with women, I really feel that women really got hit with the social programming in a lot of ways. So especially as the kind of like the world is designed, or it has been through the centuries, protecting the and valuing more like the masculine energy and the masculine way of living, regardless of your gender. We all have this, the feminine polarity and the masculine. But what is true is that in order to act out in the world, it seems, and to be successful, it's easier if you go the toxic masculine way. And so, at least for me, and I choose to incarnate as a woman, but I recall from my past that I was really, I really had a big wound around the feminine, and I felt the feminine was very weak, and I really did not feel the protection from my ancestral lineage, like the feminine ancestral lineage. So I really did not feel within myself that nurturing side of and protectiveness side of the feminine, the like the also the I did not have a lot of role models growing up, a strong, a powerful women. And so I felt that what I knew of the feminine was that in order to protect myself from the world, the victim, I needed to be in my masculine, and that was killing me from inside. That was making my life so focused on acting and going from rat race to rat race, never feeling the contentment, never feeling the really the fulfillment of living my purpose and leading from an integration of both polarities. And I really feel that it's hard to find, or at least for me in my journey, it was not easy to find that powerful, healthy feminine to teach me, to initiate me in the feminine way of being. And that's it.
You had a lot of resistance around that. Like you had a lot of resistance around, not in theory, you like the whole, you kind of really, from a distance, you adored everything that was feminine. You did adore it, like you admired it in a way as well, like, you know, the beauty of it, the
Art.
certain things you really admire, but when it actually really came to, when you came too close to it or close to it, you were so triggered by anything feminine, so triggered. Just yeah, very, very triggered. That was very interesting, and how you totally changed, like is like that when the feminine came up. And I think that's you said something very you know, something I feel that you are onto at the moment very much in your journey is to also trying to distinguish what is the toxic masculine, the healed masculine, and the toxic feminine and the healed feminine. That's what I feel, because like we spoke the other day that we spoke about that that so much, like there's a lot of this feminine wanting to do the things in a feminine way is often done with a good intention, but it's often done using the toxic masculine role model and then just doing it 180 degrees different, which then usually ends up in the toxic feminine. So a lot of women who want to do the things not in the toxic masculine for very good reason, then go into the toxic feminine. And you're being very observant about these subtleties at the moment in your life to observe, and I feel that you're observing it and you're reflecting on it, and that's where your intellectual gift comes in. You kind of analyze it as well, no?
Yes, and this is something that I'm actually finding out. The more I am on this journey, the more detached I am from. I'm able to be from the world. It's like I am creating. It's not a barrier, as in that I don't let myself immerse in situations or with people, but it's like there is this detachment, this able to analyze it from distance.
Observer.
Yes. And so it's true that coming from the toxic masculine, I tend to dive very deep, and I feel like my instinctual reaction was now to resonate with the toxic feminine. And of course, like what I realized is this thing of the chaotic nature, like the over fluidity. Yes, we need fluidity, and especially for creative jobs, I actually feel they come from you also said it many times, that they come actually from the womb, like this creation space that nurtures from within, like the project, other than children, also our passion projects. But the overly chaotic nature also prevents us from acting and directing our will to implement the structures that actually are going to help us fulfilling our purpose and aligning with the divine. Like also exactly, God or the divine also wants us to act in the world. So yes, we need the creation and the fluidity, the space, which is the feminine, to be able to create and tap into that potential, creative potential. But also then we need the structure, the linear processes, the order, the organization, the planning that the masculine brings in order to bring that about to the world and to share like our message, our projects in the world without externalizing that masculine. And I feel that is something of the unhealthy feminine, which is I just want to be in my creative mode. And so I instead of allowing myself to have both and integrate both polarities, I outsource the structure and the plan that I don't have, that I don't want to develop
It's
in
basically
my.
the maiden. It's the
Yeah.
maiden. It's like this maiden trap. The princess, the maiden, no?
Yeah, let's touch upon that, because that was also something that I had. I mean, I think I'm still in the threshold from the maiden to the mother, but clearly I'm not in the mother. And I feel a lot of people might resonate with that, because especially in the West, I think it's not the way society is structured does not really empower people or encourage women to dive to go through that threshold in a fluid and harmonious way. It's like it's kind of like you're forced to step into the mother when actually you go through maternity, and even that can not. You can also have some resistance, so you can be a mom and be in the maiden. So I actually feel like we can touch upon that.
Yeah, let me just quickly explain what Salomé saying, that one thing is very important. I'm not a mother, like physical, for example. Neither is Salomé, no, it doesn't matter when we talk about the mother. we do not mean a physical mom per se, but it's the age. It's basically, there has these three phases in a woman's life. Well, it's the girl, and then the three phases of the adult woman. It's the maiden. It's the from the teenage years into this young woman, maybe till the second half of the 20s, and then comes the mother phase till menopause, and then comes the crone, the wise woman. The mother phase is usually when we biologically, or with our lifestyle, that's when we women would have normally average babies. However, it doesn't mean that we need to be physically mothers. What the mother archetypes, they're archetypes. What it means is the maiden is the young woman still exploring, not taking responsibility in life, but very creative, very flowy, a bit the princess, a bit coquette maybe, this girlish, what we associate with girlish, but looking good, looking young, being fit, being cheerful, being chirpy, nice to be around, but definitely not somebody who takes responsibility in life. It's definitely not somebody who, would really put others in the focus. There's something narcissistic about that stage as well, which is within that time frame, the natural development, totally natural, that we have it's about me, myself, and I in this. It's also the self-exploration. Who am I? It's the hormonal chaos, the growing up. It's being mesmerized with oneself. And then naturally, once we have lived that, we women, we go over the threshold to the mother. And the mother means that we become more responsible beings, that we become women who care not just about ourselves, but we care about society, we care about the family, we nurture, we give birth to a physical baby, we give birth to a job baby, we give birth to a creative baby, we give birth to an idea, to a concept, a cause. It's something we care deeply about, and we are ready to fight for, we are ready to stand up for. We become more considerate towards others. And it's also the phase where women have to be very careful, because the taking responsibility, the being considerate towards others, very often goes too far that we forget about ourselves. So this phase is often also about self-love, not to forget about self-love. And then with the onset of menopause, the crone starts, the archetype of the crone, the wise woman starts. And that's the initiation, is the whole process, the whole purging in menopause, all these hot flushes that I'm going through at the moment. It's all that physical stuff, which it's not just happening because it's happening what we haven't dealt with up until now, the shadows which we haven't brought up, the subconscious which we haven't dealt with, is now just all, it's literally like a geyser, it's just coming up. The good news is that when we purge that, when we go through it, when we actually deal with it, we come out different on the other side. And the crone is not dealing with everyday's chores anymore. The crone is there to be there for the bigger picture. It's actually also connecting more to the divine, and it's a terminology I love. Like a crone is unfuckwithable. So a crone, you don't mess with a crone. A crone, she knows who she is, and if it's from a healthy, healed way, she also has done her self-work, so it's not coming from an ego place, and she won't. You cannot threaten her. She's fearless, she's ferocious, and she's not dealing with petty business anymore. It's about the bigger things in life. And the bigger things in life are not the things which are considered big from a society level. It's more the spiritual realms. It's more the real, it's about, what's the true essence of one's life is. The same thing, of course, is also for the man. what we refer to now, particularly for the woman here. So what you touch on, I feel very passionate about it. So it's that in our society, that's what you just said before, Salomé. It's in our society that honest, like so many women in their 40s are still in the maidens. Some women in my age, I'm 52, some women even in, I know women in their 60s, 70s who are still in the maiden. And there's nothing wrong with a maiden in her age group being a maiden, you know. It just feels a bit off when you haven't actually journeyed through the steps, and it's not very healthy for society, because the society needs the maidens, the mothers, and the crones. And so if you do not, it needs it all. It's nothing wrong with the maiden. It's just something wrong when you're still a maiden when you're 60. Because yeah, it's there's, you know, there's nobody taking responsibility. There's nobody actually standing up for things. It's just this total self-obsession with looks. It's all the plastic surgeries. It is that over attention to looking good. You know, instead of an inner process and in the maturing and in the growing of wisdom, there's such an obsession with looking young. There's such an obsession with the physical that totally deviates people from actually nurturing and putting attention on what's really essential. That's the personal growth. It's not, yeah, it's about looks. Who doesn't like to look good? But it's just how much time, money, and everything are you willing to invest in looks, and how much do you have left for something which is more essential?
Yes. Yes, exactly, 100%. And I really
Yeah.
and I really feel that it's exactly what you said. It's the fact that most, not most, but a large percentage of women are not tapping into the crown for sure, but also a limited amount into the mother, that then for young ladies growing up in the maiden, it's actually hard because you don't have around you so much like accessible to you people, women that are in their power in the mother, or in their power in the crown, to walk you along the way, to form that communities of a healthy feminine in their age appropriate group and power, to kind of like guide you or inspire you, or even collectively sharing containers where you can grow alongside, because also that is the essence of the feminine. It's not hierarchical, it's not triangular in shape, but it's circular. It's this circularity, and actually this was the main reason why we wanted to share our conversations with the world, is that oftentimes, of course, I am your student and I'm learning alongside you tremendously, but there's also this open channel for me to also, from my own energy in the maiden, trying to grow up, also kind of like connecting some dots to you, right?
Oh, like that's part of the feminine process. I feel we all, maybe it's not just the feminine, I think in general, we all students and teachers at the same time.